This is a screencast for Unit 3, Technology and Communication. The purpose of this screencast is to provide you an overview for the unit as you begin to prepare to implement this unit. So the essential question that students will be thinking about the entire time they're studying this is, how has technology had an impact on communication? The enduring understanding that we want students to get to by the end of the unit is the advancement and use of technology shapes the ways in which people communicate with each other and requires us to be aware of the consequences of our words. So students are going to be thinking about digital citizenship, what types of things should and should not go on the internet. They will be focusing on writing and how to tailor a specific piece of writing for each different type of audience. So as always, as we're thinking about our unit, we want to begin by looking at the end of the unit. So our end of unit assessment is a task force social contract. So this is another group project where students will be working in groups of 4. So after they've had time to study technology, the internet, the types of things that can happen on the internet for good or for bad, they're going to develop 5 rules to help people safely navigate internet communication. So once the group has decided on those 5 rules, each person in the group is going to write a publication including these rules for different audiences. So one person will write a publication that is suitable for elementary students. One person will write a publication suitable for high school students. One person for adults, and one person for CEOs, directors, and other high-ranking officials. So to start out, the unit is separated into different categories and different sections. The first section is entitled Losses. So students open up the lesson by using another word splash, and they think about how they use technology in their lives. What are some of the benefits of technology, and then also what are some of the drawbacks? So students will look at relationships, and they'll look at different articles and determine if technology has made our relationships stronger and that we're more connected, or they'll have to decide if technology has hindered our relationships. They will write an open-ended response, which is an extended paragraph to respond to the prompt, does texting and other social media cause us to be more or less intimately connected? In the next lesson, they'll talk about language and whether or not language has improved or gotten worse due to technology. So again, they'll look at several articles, at a data set, and they'll discuss the tension between formal and informal writing and determine if it's a win-win, win-lose, or lose-lose situation. So they'll write another one of those open-ended responses. Finally, to close up this section, they will write their own personal policy for how they will operate in a way so that they are able to advance in their technology skills, but also keep that humanistic and social contact with each other. So you've probably heard me mention the open-ended response. You're going to see this several times throughout the entire unit. In this, students will be answering a prompt by answering what, why, and how, creating a paragraph. Now, the open-ended responses were written several years ago, and they have not been updated to include the language of claim, evidence, and warrant. But this is a great opportunity to incorporate those things and use that vocabulary so that students can connect to what they've already learned this year regarding those terms. The next segment is entitled From Here to Where. So it starts off with a very low stakes example by having students look at an email that describes a high school situation. So someone sent out an email inviting people to a party. Someone replied back writing something kind of mean about 2 of the students, but they actually hit reply all. And so students will talk about the implications of that and what will happen. In the next lesson, they'll look at some more examples, some case studies, and things that have happened to people in the real world, also corporations that have done something similar, either hit reply all or something has got on the internet that not everyone should see, and what the implications of that has been. Next, students will have the opportunity to take a stance by writing an editorial on their thinking on how people can operate safely on the internet, and they'll need to provide evidence to support as well. And then students will also have the opportunity to do some peer editing, to critique each other based on word choice and voice. The next section is entitled The Public Arena. So students will talk about how they should or should not tailor their actions in public spaces, and whether or not you need to act differently in the public versus in your private home. They'll spend some time defining what public spaces are, so in the real world, but also on the internet. They will do another open-ended response, and then they'll also learn about counter-arguments. The final lesson talks about several idioms and how to set ground rules for operating in public in a way that decreases negative consequences. The next section is entitled Sticks and Stones, and students will take some time to do a question chunk annotate on the First Amendment to really break it down and make sure that they understand all of the components of the First Amendment, what is protected and what is not protected under the First Amendment rights. Students will then use this knowledge and they'll be given several different case studies and they'll participate in another hot seat debate based on a case study and whether or not it would fall under First Amendment rights. And in this debate they will need to use counter arguments as well. They will then complete another open-ended response and they'll have the opportunity to reflect and revise that. Finally, students will talk about who owns it. So they will talk about, it'll start with a picture that was posted on Facebook that was taken by a company and used to sell their product. So they'll talk about when you post something on the internet, whether it's a picture or a drawing, who owns that and who has the rights to that specific picture. They'll look at several different policies regarding intellectual property and things like that. Next, they'll look more in depth at some different case studies and they will compare and contrast their original thoughts with the real life examples and think about how they've developed their thinking in this area. And then finally, they'll create their own personal brochure that is going to give people tips and strategies for how to navigate safely on the internet. So it'll be a formal publication. And this is a great precursor to the end of unit assessment. So again, just to remind you what the end of unit assessment is, they're working together, they're coming up with rules for being safe on the internet, and they're creating a publication to several different audiences. So that in a nutshell is what Unit 3 Technology and Communication is all about. Some planning considerations. As you start the next unit, you're going to want to make sure that you look at semester 2 grading distribution, which is on the S drive. This is going to be slightly different than the first unit because there is no mid-unit assessment during this unit. Also, writing is heavily focused on in this unit, so you'll want to think about how to set that up so that students can go through the entire writing process of brainstorming, drafting, revising, things like that. Again, you're really going to want to make sure that you understand what the open-ended responses are and how to incorporate claims, warrant, and evidence with that. Also, technology integration. The title of this unit is Technology and Communication. And so if you want to try to incorporate Schoology or My Big Campus, I'm definitely willing to help you think of ways that you can do that. Also, these lesson plans are only one day, which is different than what we used in the first semester. So if you have block scheduling, you'll need to teach 2 in one day. But think about if that changes anything for you and the way that you're used to planning. That is it. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks.